Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into one of the biggest questions of our time. As we build these incredible machines that can think, are we actually teaching them to be good? Or are we just teaching them to be more like us? We're about to dive deep into that complex, fascinating, and, let's be honest, sometimes scary intersection of artificial intelligence and our own human morality. So to even get started, we have to ask a question that people have been wrestling with forever. What does it actually mean to be good? It sounds so simple, right? But the answer is unbelievably complicated, and it's right at the heart of the challenge we now face with AI. You see, for us humans, morality isn't some factory setting we're born with. It's not a fixed piece of code. It's what you call a social construct, this dynamic, constantly changing system we've built over thousands of years through our cultures, our laws, and the stories we tell each other. It's the messy, contextual, and deeply human stuff that lets us trust each other and work together. And this is where the real tension comes in. On one side, you've got our morality, which has evolved slowly, organically, over millennia. On the other side, you have AI's so-called morality, which has been developed in just a handful of years. It's not shaped by life experience, but by data, by algorithms, and by the programmers who write them. The difference in speed and scale here is it's mind-boggling. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick off with the basic moral dilemma that AI creates. Then we'll look at how it acts like a mirror, reflecting our own biases back at us. We'll dig into the search for fairness in algorithms, then zoom out to see how this tech is changing our lives, and finally we'll talk about the moral legacy we're literally coding into our future. So let's start with that big dilemma. Is AI just another tool, like a hammer or a super smart spreadsheet? Or is it becoming something else? As these systems get more and more autonomous, that line between being a simple instrument and a moral actor gets really, really blurry. And it forces us to ask some tough questions. And that brings us to the most important idea I want you to hold on to today. AI is not just a technology. It's a mirror. It doesn't show up with its own values baked in. Instead, it reflects our society right back at us. All our knowledge, our breakthroughs, but also our flaws, our prejudices, and all of our blind spots. The political philosopher Michael Sandel absolutely nailed the danger here. He points out that AI doesn't just copy our biases, it kind of launders them. It takes our messy, subjective human baggage and puts this shiny veneer of scientific objectivity on it. All of a sudden, discrimination starts to look a lot like data science, and that's dangerous. So let's go ahead and look a little closer into that mirror, because the clearest, most immediate reflection we see of ourselves is bias. This is exactly where the big, abstract philosophical problem becomes a very real-world issue of fairness and justice. And, bias isn't just one simple mistake. It's a whole systemic problem. Researcher Emilio Ferrara has laid out how it can sneak in all these different stages. It can be in the data from the very start, if it's skewed. It can be in the algorithm's design. And now, with things like image generators, we're seeing generative bias, where the AI doesn't just repeat stereotypes, it actually makes them stronger. Let's make this really concrete. Just look at the studies on major facial recognition systems. They show this really disturbing pattern. The error rates are just wildly different depending on who you are. So for white men, they're super accurate. But for women of color, the error rates are sky high. Now, this isn't the machine being intentionally malicious. It's a direct reflection of it being trained on data that just wasn't representative of everybody. This generative bias creates these really warped views of reality. When you ask the big AI image generators to make a picture of a CEO, they almost always spit out images of men. If you ask for a criminal, they disproportionately create images of people of color. The AI is just vomiting up the harmful stereotypes that are all over the internet data it was trained on. So, what does the public think about all this? Are people actually worried? Well, yeah. A 2019 report found that a massive majority, 82%, of Americans believe AI needs to be managed carefully. People get it. They instinctively understand that a technology this powerful can't just be let loose without some serious ethical guardrails. Which brings us to the next big question. If we know bias is the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, this is the search for algorithmic fairness. And believe me, it is way more complicated than just tidying up some data. First, it is absolutely crucial to understand the difference between bias and fairness. They are not the same thing. Bias is often a technical problem. It's a statistical thing, a deviation, and it can be totally unintentional. Fairness, though, that's a social and ethical goal. It's about the intentional absence of discrimination. You can have a system with zero statistical bias that is still profoundly unfair in the real world. So researchers are basically attacking this problem from all sides. You can try to fix the data before you even start training the AI. You can choose different kinds of algorithms that are specifically designed for fairness. Or you can just adjust the AI's final decisions after it makes them to try and correct for any unfairness. And each one of these strategies has its own really complex trade-offs. But all of this, it all leads to the ultimate, maybe impossible challenge. Philosophers call it value loading. How in the world do we translate our messy, contradictory, context-dependent human values into the cold, hard, rigid logic of code? What does a word like justice or fairness even mean to a machine that just sees ones and zeros? This is not a tech problem anymore. It's one of the deepest philosophical questions we've ever faced. And the stakes of getting this right go way, way beyond just biased code. We're now talking about a technology that could fundamentally reshape what it even means to be human. So, here's the question that keeps a lot of experts up at night. We're already struggling to get AI to align with our values while it's still relatively simple. So what happens when it becomes a general intelligence, or even a super intelligence? An entity that's smarter than us in pretty much every single way. A recent survey of tech experts from Elon University paints a pretty sobering picture. They predict that by 2035, AI could start to erode some of our core human traits, things like our sense of control of our own lives, our ability to feel empathy, our capacity for deep, critical thought. The big fear is that by outsourcing all our thinking to machines, our own human abilities could just wither away. And the disruption isn't just personal, it's systemic. Futurist Paul Sappho gives this just stunningly concrete prediction. Imagine an economic entity more powerful than most countries that employs almost no people and operates entirely on its own. The social and economic fallout from something like that is almost impossible to wrap your head around. This all boils down to what the experts call the alignment problem. It's this massive, maybe generational challenge of making sure that AI, especially an AI that's way smarter than we are, is actually pursuing goals that are aligned with humanity's best interests. Because if we get this one wrong, the consequences could be, well, catastrophic. Which brings us to our final and maybe most critical point. It's a reflection on the incredible responsibility that we all have right now. We are, at this very moment, encoding our moral legacy into the machines that are going to shape the future of our world. So I want to leave you with a really personal question. Forget about society for a second. Just think about your own beliefs, your own biases, your own blind spots. What kind of world would we make if a super powerful AI adopted your personal moral code, flaws and all? It's a humbling thought, isn't it? And it makes this whole abstract problem feel incredibly real. And that, in the end, is what this is all about. The development of AI is forcing us to have a moral reckoning with ourselves. The biggest challenge isn't a technical one, it's a human one. It's not just about building smarter machines, it's about us becoming wiser, more thoughtful, more compassionate stewards of intelligence itself, no matter what form it takes. Thanks for watching The Explainer.